God! Oh my God!
August 23rd was destined to be a catastrophic day in the UK, with wind and rain at the center of the storm. Starting from early morning, strong winds raged, and the sweeping storm brought unprecedented destruction and danger to the country. Storm Lillian quickly spread through the atmosphere overnight and struck across the UK. The strong winds struck like thousands of troops, ravaging the entire British island and causing huge disasters to people's lives and property. Accompanied by the howling wind, a large number of thick trees fell down and their branches were scattered on the ground, blocking roads and cutting off important transportation routes. Areas in northern England and northern Wales have suffered the most severe blows. The local meteorological department has issued a yellow wind warning to remind residents to remain vigilant. According to data from the Meteorological Bureau, in the center of the storm, the maximum gust speed even reached 80 miles per hour. This super strong wind can easily overturn and tear items parked outdoors, causing serious damage to local infrastructure and residents' lives. Here comes the havoc. Thousands of innocent families suffered, and large areas were left without power due to the raging winds. Northwest Electric Power Company urgently mobilized maintenance personnel to repair the damaged power grid in an effort to restore power in the shortest possible time. However, due to interference from downed trees and strong winds, the work progressed slowly and it was a race against time. Even music events are not immune. The Ritz Music Festival, which was in the midst of an intense preparation period, suffered a serious blow when Storm Lillian struck. Organizers were forced to close 3 major stages, including the high-profile BBC Radio 1 stage, and many scheduled performances were cancelled or postponed. The music festival's tent camp was in a mess, completely destroyed by the strong winds, and participants could only try in vain to catch the tents that were blown into the air. The storm sweeping across the UK has caused serious troubles to the country's infrastructure, transportation, and even people's daily lives, making all people uneasy and fearful. As one of the UK's busiest aviation hubs, Heathrow Airport in London was hit by the high winds of Storm Lillian. Early in the morning, British Airways announced the cancellation of at least 14 flights taking off from here and postponed the departure time of other flights. This not only caused delays and troubles for a large number of passengers preparing to go to domestic and foreign destinations, but also caused the airline's operational order to fall into chaos. A spokesperson for British Airways explained to the media that the adverse impact of the weather had forced the Aviation Control Department to implement a series of control measures and therefore had to adjust some flights. At the same time, the British rail transport network was also severely damaged by the storm. Several major railway lines were paralyzed by high winds and rain. In Kent, a train unfortunately hit a fallen tree. The carriage was seriously damaged and the train was suspended, causing great inconvenience to passengers traveling to and from London and other areas. Even the rail link between Wirral and Liverpool was disrupted for the same reason. The Northern Railway Company urgently appealed to passengers not to travel to areas such as Leeds, because many train lines there are already on the verge of paralysis and cannot operate normally. The company said it was making every effort to repair the damaged railway and restore service, but problems such as tree obstructions on the road and power supply interruptions made the work more difficult. The road conditions are not good either. In northern England and northern Wales, strong gusts downed trees and blocked vital motorway routes. The M48 Severn Bridge in Gloucestershire was forced to close, becoming another victim of the storm. Officials from the British Transport Department expressed concern that this unprecedented storm is taking a heavy toll on the country's transportation systems. A large number of travel plans have been forced to be cancelled or delayed, causing millions of people to suffer. They urge all members of the public to travel with caution and minimize travel time. Unlike inland areas, where trees have been blown down and roads blocked, areas along Britain's coast face completely different threats. Powerful waves, driven by strong winds, hit the shore crazily, forming amazing turbulence. The meteorological department issued timely warnings to coastal residents, reminding them of various potential dangers. It is reported that huge waves have washed ashore near Porthcawl Lighthouse in Glamorgan County, almost swallowing this historical monument. Rescue workers arrived in a hurry and launched rescue operations. In the island areas of the northwest, the situation is even more severe. A British superyacht Bays, with 22 people on board, was hit by a waterspout while approaching Sicily, Italy, and eventually sank in the sea. The tragedy left at least one person dead and 6 others missing, including well-known technology entrepreneur Mike Lynch and his daughter. It is reported that most of the victims were colleagues from Lynch's company who were heading to a luxury yacht party. Swept by violent storms, this valuable yacht could not escape the fate of sinking. The local maritime department quickly launched a search and rescue operation, but progress was very slow under severe weather conditions. At the same time, residents in the northern coastal areas of England are also suffering. The violent storms continued to hit, and they had to fight to the death against the raging waves. Some unlucky people were even swept away by huge waves, and their whereabouts are unknown. Rescuers are working hard to drag them back to safety at the last minute. This storm has brought an unprecedented crisis to the British coastal areas, and hundreds of lives have been seriously threatened. The authorities are making every effort to implement various rescue measures in an attempt to reduce the losses caused by this disaster. Thank you for liking, leaving comments, subscribing and turning on the little bell. We will update every day. In addition to casualties and damage to infrastructure, the storm disaster that swept across the country also dealt a heavy blow to the British economy. The first to bear the brunt are the major outdoor music festivals that are in the preparation period. The Leeds-based music event is in serious trouble after being hit by a storm. A large number of scheduled performances were cancelled or postponed, causing heavy losses to the audiences who came to enjoy the music. At the same time, the music festival camp also suffered serious damage. Under the raging wind, countless tents were overturned and even flew into the sky, leaving the scene in a mess. This undoubtedly cast a shadow over the participants' journey and also dealt a heavy blow to the organizers. Also hit hard is the ongoing Creamfields Music Festival in Cheshire. One participant painfully expressed that almost everyone's tents were destroyed by the strong wind, leaving everyone sleepless at night. The heavy losses to these music events will undoubtedly worsen the already sluggish tourism industry in the UK. Not only that, the storm also severely damaged many other outdoor commercial activities. In Bolton, a food and drink festival was severely damaged, with about 20 stalls blown over and all merchandise sold. This heavy loss will undoubtedly sound a wake-up call for participating merchants and make them fully prepared for future development. Overall, this storm has dealt a heavy blow to the UK's economic development. Various outdoor activities have been affected, the tourism industry has suffered, and people's normal lives have also been severely disrupted. A long road to recovery still awaits the country. Although Storm Lillian finally moved into the North Sea on Friday afternoon, much of the UK is expected to face continued severe weather over the coming days. Forecasts issued by the Meteorological Department show that during this week's bank holiday, especially on Saturday and Sunday, southern and southeastern England will be hit by widespread heavy rains. From 6 a.m. to 1 p.m., rainfall in this area may be as high as 50 to 70 millimeters, and there is a risk of flooding in some areas. Meanwhile, the threat of strong winds in northern England and northern Wales remains. The yellow wind warning issued by the Meteorological Bureau will last until 11 a.m. on Friday, when gusts may reach up to 60 miles per hour. Such strong winds will undoubtedly bring a new round of impact to road traffic and power supply. Weather experts said there was likely to be a reprieve in these areas over the rest of Saturday, but by Sunday, showers were back again, blanketing northern and northwest England under clouds. Things are only likely to improve until next Monday, when the weather is expected to turn sunny and dry in southern and southeastern England. This continued bad weather will undoubtedly greatly affect the British people during the bank holiday. People who originally planned to go out for fun or travel this weekend may find it difficult to do so. Millions of motorists are also facing severe challenges, having to navigate heavy rain and strong winds. Experts expressed worry that the impact of this record-breaking storm disaster on the UK is far from over. In the next few days, the weather will remain unpredictable, and the threat of heavy rain and strong winds still exists. They called on the general public to be highly vigilant and minimize unnecessary travel to avoid harm. What caused this record-breaking storm to hit the UK? Meteorologists pointed out that the storm was caused by a powerful high-altitude jet stream. Typically, this fast airflow, located about 30,000 feet above the atmosphere, accelerates in the fall and brings a series of low-pressure weather systems. But this week, the jet stream is not only staying over the UK, but is moving at speeds of 160 miles per hour, which is unusual in the summer. This caused a large number of low-pressure areas to emerge and hit the UK, causing this ongoing storm disaster. In addition, the residual energy of Hurricane Ernesto, which escaped from the United States, has also intensified the severe weather in the UK to a certain extent. Although this hurricane that once raged in the Caribbean has weakened after crossing the Atlantic Ocean, it still carries a large amount of heat and water vapor and is carried to the British coast by the jet stream, further promoting the formation of the storm. Met Office experts believe that while wet and windy weather in August is not unusual, a series of named storms like this is a rare event. Since the naming of storms began in 2015, this is the first time that a storm with the prefix L has been recorded in the UK within a year. This period, coupled with the attack of Hurricane Ernesto, has undoubtedly made the weather in the UK more unpredictable. The expert added that as we enter the peak period of the Atlantic hurricane season, there may be more tropical cyclone activity in the future, which may further affect the weather in the UK by affecting the intensity and position of the jet stream. Therefore, although the bank holiday has arrived, it may be difficult for the British people to enjoy stable good weather in the next few days. The storm disaster sweeping across the UK is undoubtedly one of the most serious and widespread natural disasters this country has experienced in recent years. From damaging winds to torrential rain, Storm Lillian took a heavy toll on Britain's infrastructure, transport, and people's lives. Worryingly, experts predict that most parts of the UK will still face continued threats of wind and rain during the upcoming bank holiday. Strong gusts and heavy rain will undoubtedly bring a new round of impact to road transportation, power supply, and other infrastructure, casting a shadow on the public who are eager to go out for fun. This record-breaking storm disaster has profoundly revealed the UK's fragile resilience to disasters. Under the influence of climate change, the country will face more similar natural disasters in the future, which will bring severe tests to the lives of the general public and economic development. The government and relevant departments must learn from this lesson and take effective response measures to better protect people's lives and property. Only through the joint efforts of the whole society can the UK finally overcome the current predicament, emerge from this unprecedented storm, and embrace a better tomorrow. There have been many serious storm disasters in history, and the damage and impact they caused were shocking. First, we cannot ignore the Galveston hurricane of 1900. The storm hit Galveston Island in Texas, killing at least 8,000 people, setting a record for the deadliest natural disaster in the United States. The population of Galveston Island at that time was only 38,000, which shows the severity of this disaster. The storm caused property damage of up to $30 million, an astronomical figure at the time. Secondly, the Florida hurricane of 1928 was equally heinous. The storm killed 2,500 people, damaged thousands of buildings, and caused heavy agricultural losses. According to statistics, the total population of Florida at that time was only 1 million, which shows how destructive the storm was. Compared with the Galveston hurricane mentioned above, although the death toll caused by the major hurricane in Florida is slightly lower, considering the different population base, the impact caused by it can be said to be equally tragic. Again, Hurricane Robert in 1935 caused 800 deaths and $600 million in damage. The storm hit the Florida Keys and eventually made landfall in Hamilton County, Florida. The most critical thing is that the tsunami caused by this storm caused a large number of casualties. Compared with the previous two events, Hurricane Robert's destructiveness was reflected in the loss of property rather than loss of life. This highlights the diverse hazards that storm hazards can bring. Meanwhile, the New England hurricane of 1938 is equally memorable. The storm ravaged the northeastern United States, killing more than 700 people and causing $405 million in property damage. It is worth mentioning that the rescue capabilities and post-disaster reconstruction work at that time were far less complete than today, which means that post-disaster reconstruction may be even more difficult. In addition, Hurricane Haloid in 1954 only weakened after making 2 landfalls. The storm hit Florida and the east coast of the United States, killing more than 1,200 people and injuring more than 1,000 people. Among them, the losses in Florida were particularly severe, with the disaster rate in some areas as high as 90%. This shows that some areas are more susceptible to storm disasters, which is related to geographical location and disaster resilience. What cannot be ignored is that Hurricane Heinz ravaged the southeastern United States in 1965, causing 256 deaths and $1 billion in property damage. This disaster highlights the role that climate change plays in exacerbating the frequency and destructiveness of storm disasters. Compared with previous events, the damage caused by Hurricane Heinz was larger and more comprehensive. This means that the probability of similar disaster events may become higher and higher in the future. What is even more noteworthy is that Hurricane Agnes hit Florida in 1972, causing a large number of lives and property losses. The storm killed 122 people and damaged more than 13,000 buildings. This highlights that even in the same area, storm disasters at different times can cause very different losses. This in turn highlights the importance of human disaster prevention and mitigation capabilities. What needs attention is that Hurricane Hugo made landfall in Frome Beach in 1989, causing 63 deaths and $16.7 billion in property damage. This incident shows that even in the same area, the destructiveness of storm disasters varies greatly. Analysis of the reasons may be related to local disaster prevention construction level, weather forecasting capabilities, and other factors. Finally, it cannot be ignored that Hurricane Katrina in 2005 was the worst storm disaster in the history of the United States. The storm killed more than 1,800 people and caused $125 billion in property damage. It can be said that Hurricane Katrina completely subverted people's understanding of storm disasters. Among them, New Orleans was particularly severely hit, highlighting the importance of urban disaster resilience. This disaster undoubtedly sounded the alarm for future disaster prevention and reduction efforts in the United States. In response to storm disasters, different countries have adopted a variety of targeted measures, which are worthy of our careful study and reference. First, let's look at what the United States does in this regard. The United States is one of the most developed countries in the world, and its disaster prevention and reduction system is also relatively complete. Among them, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, is the leader. FEMA is not only responsible for emergency response to various disasters, but also actively participates in prevention and post-disaster reconstruction. It is worth mentioning that FEMA allocates billions of dollars every year for various disaster prevention and post-disaster reconstruction projects. In addition, FEMA has also developed a series of emergency plans and regularly organizes large-scale drills to improve the emergency response capabilities of all walks of life. These practices have greatly enhanced the overall ability of the United States to respond to storm disasters. Secondly, Japan's disaster prevention and reduction work also deserves attention. As a country located in earthquake zones and prone to typhoons, Japan has always attached great importance to work in this area. What cannot be ignored is that Japan has world-class meteorological monitoring and forecasting capabilities, and can predict the occurrence of various disasters more accurately. In addition, Japan has also invested heavily in disaster prevention infrastructure construction, such as earthquake early warning systems, flood control embankments, etc. These have greatly improved Japan's disaster resilience. What is particularly important is that Japan focuses on integrating disaster prevention education into schools and communities to improve the national disaster prevention awareness and self-rescue and mutual rescue capabilities. This measure is particularly critical in the face of storm disasters. Thirdly, Norway also has many bright spots in dealing with storm disasters. Norway is a country with an extremely changeable climate, but it has done an excellent job in disaster prevention and reduction. First, Norway has established a national climate change adaptation strategy and clarified specific measures to deal with various climate disasters. Thank you for liking, leaving a message, subscribing, and turning on the little bell. We will update the latest news from around the world every day. Continue to use a scientific perspective to explore the complex truth behind meteorological events.